Hello, and welcome to Dice Punks, a tabletop role-playing podcast where we focus on playing full campaigns in less well-known systems. This week, the nascent team attempts their first op, disrupting the Terabyte Boys' potentially dangerous auction. Hello and welcome. I'm Adam, your friendly neighborhood game master, and joining me are...
Hello, I'm Drew, and I'll be playing Kato, the fixer who is at present not in too much of a fix.
Hello, I'm Robin, and I'll be playing Callisto Armitage, but that's officer to you.
Hi, I'm Dez, and I'll be playing Matchstick, who is a variety of people to a variety of people, and always concerned about what anyone might be doing. Because he likes to know.
Hello, I am Nick, and I will be playing Ing, who is an android and a droid operator. Nothing fancy about that.
Well, thanks, players. Let's get right into it with our recap of last time, courtesy of Kato.
So, Ing and I helped out some students, sold some books on advanced cybernetics, classical rhetoric, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, the officer got some intel from Ramirez. Byrne got similar intel, though not from Officer Ramirez. At that point, I paid Ing and hired him for real this time, for the real job, and Ing met Byrne in the flesh. The two of them attempted to come to some kind of agreement about delivering a voicemail, hyper-secretly, to Earth on Ing's behalf, but alas, no agreement was reached just then. The officer, meanwhile, issued a casual, sort of a whoop-whoop warning at Gottlieb's, and then clocked out, exchanging unpleasantries with Ramirez. Then Ing went home, prepared the drones, fed the arm, also prepared an envelope with the police station as the return address, just in case. Now, about this auction. The officer tailed Jorma, saw him buying prescription drugs for which he did not have any apparent prescription. I got some info on the time of the auction from Bronwy, and I also spread the word to the other criminals in the area that the Terabyte Boys were horning in on their territory and were not to be trusted, which, in my defense, is true, in addition to being convenient. Byrne infiltrated some networks, tracked down and isolated some likely Terabyte Boys communication, while Ing went to Crazy Aruru's and got some surveillance equipment, remarkably accomplishing something with Crazy Aruru. All in all, we learned where and when the auction was likely to be, thanks Byrne, thanks K&B. It's going to be at an IMX storage facility, it seems. Ing was able to observe the delivery of the dangerous thing up for auction. We still don't know what it is, but there's reason to believe it's in the basement. So off we go.
Marvelous. We pick up pretty much right there. We stopped last time with Ing observing this and not really having an opportunity to do too much with that observation. But you, Ing, are about a block away from the building that you observed this being carried into, so you can keep an eye on the drones that don't have the surveillance equipment installed on them, and also be on hand should anything happen to one of your drones while they are out. And so you observe long enough for them to kind of get this thing inside, and then are able to pick up there, taking whatever actions you deem appropriate.
So they've observed the things being brought inside, but they haven't yet observed on the inside of this building. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were going to make any efforts to send your drones inside, especially since really only the one that has the equipment on it is something you can operate without watching it, from where you're standing.
Mm. Let's see. Question for the administrator of the game. Can my drones communicate with one another when they are in close proximity?
They
I mean, they
can,
do so in order to kind of operate as a swarm, but
right.
other than that, can they?
I mean, they can send information, over was essentially Grand Cross's version of like NFC. Uh, you know, they of course can also, you can pull down information from one and send it to the others.
Mhm.
Their ability to operate as a swarm is kind of a particular software suite that has to do with like positioning data that is kind of
Mhm.
shared in real time when they are close together. But it wouldn't, the smartness of your smart swarm uh doesn't quite reach the level of like independent communication,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
All right. I would like to send the swarm in so that they can support one another. I will say that it's Mama that has the recording equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the quad drone with cat ears affixed to the the above side. So yeah, I will send them in as a swarm. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if if they would cause too much sound disturbance and therefore be difficult to stealth in, then the flying swarm will remain outside. And I will say that. Well, actually, let me just ask. Is there appreciable sound?
Especially in an enclosed area, right? You are, Turing Ward is part of downtown Grand Cross. So if they're outside, there are very few places where the ambient noise is going to be low enough that you're going to hear the like whir,
Mm-hmm.
them staying airborne. But once they get in any kind of insulated audio space, especially with like, you know, sound reflective surfaces,
Mm-hmm.
they become much more audible. It's also a matter of how are you planning on them gaining access to the interior of this storage building?
Mm-hmm.
They've opened the door to the basement to take the auction item in, but like closed it behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there are, first floor doors and windows, but it's like after hours, on a Friday evening, and none of these are conveniently open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does appear to have an HVAC system, but again, I couldn't get into my house using the HVAC system. um, your drones
Well,
are
with that
smaller,
attitude.
but your drones are smaller, but face similar problems with things like, vent covers and fan
Mm-hmm.
blades and things in that regard. So, what would be your plan for getting them inside, much less keeping them undetected once they're inside?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to start, of course, by just kind of canvassing the outside, seeing what exits are there so that we can
Mhm.
make our egress quickly if we need to. After that, the priority would be to investigate the HVAC system to see whether ingress is possible with a selection of my drones rather than the whole suite.
Okay.
In addition, if there's anybody that happens to walk in or out in the meantime, um, I would want to take advantage of that.
Okay, so anybody like entering the building, you would like fly your swarm in before they close the door behind them?
I think walk the swarm in, but only if there is kind of sufficient um, cover to do so. So if
Okay.
you, so specifically, Banjo and Bruv are non-avian varieties. They are a spider and a scorpion, kind of by form, and then
Okay.
Peggy is a beetle. So um,
Guys
that
have
might
kind of
be
both.
my that in addition to Toots might be my infiltration team.
Okay. Yeah, the more information I get about these drones, the harder I have to work to envision how they operate collectively. So I do appreciate all of the added specificity there. Excuse me. So I'm going to start to abstract some of this now that I know what your intentions are. Let's go ahead and begin with a robotics roll. I think for this initial one, we're going to make it clever. So it's going to be 2d6 plus 5.
Okay. That is a 4 and a 1 for a 5 plus 5 is 10.
Okay. You said that the surveillance equipment was installed on Mama?
Yes.
Okay. So you give a sort of quick once over to the exterior of the building using the information you're getting back from Mama, and sort of discover the various kind of details and attributes we've covered: the windows, doors, HVAC systems. You got to have a basic layout of the building from that. You don't really spot anything that is like, aha, there's my golden ticket. Any of these things have the potential to let you get your drones inside, but not necessarily any guarantee of success or stealth. So you move your ground team kind of into a likely position. I'm going to make a quick roll. Okay, just a second.
Nothing ominous there.
Wouldn't worry.
Everything's going to go smoothly.
Why would we worry? Adam's in charge of this game.
Everything's fine.
All shall be well.
So you move your ground team kind of into a likely position and have them kind of camp out. Mama is up above kind of watching for people coming and going, and slowly getting kind of closer to the rooftop HVAC system to sort of give it a closer, better look. While that is all happening, you get a proximity alert. It's going to take me a minute to learn your drone's names here, but I will eventually. You get a proximity alert from Banjo. And, sort of swivel Mama's surveillance equipment array to get an idea of what's going on. And you actually see that there's this weird little robot drone about the size of maybe a weasel that has seemingly bumped in to Banjo as it is kind of clambering past, carrying what looks like a discarded circuit board. You swivel the sensor array in time to see that it is sort of like swinging away from Banjo. You don't see the actual kind of like bump. It staggers as though not all of its spindly little legs are working correctly. And then when it gets its balance back, shoots off towards the main thoroughfare quite quickly, for as clumsy as it seemed to be a moment ago. You haven't seen anything that is particularly close to this little thing before. But you're also not really used to seeing like little quadrupedal autonomous robots generally, or especially out and about, or especially like acting without obvious, piloting. Checking Banjo's logs, you find that not only did this thing bump into Banjo, but it also seems to have given Banjo a sort of tentative, it's logged in network traffic by Banjo, but on further inspection, it was actually an IR blast, like from a remote control. Doesn't seem to have carried any legible information or had any effect on Banjo. But Banjo was equipped to be able to sort of log the interaction anyway.
All right. I will save that data for later, for later analysis, just in case it does carry some hidden transmission. But in the meantime, I think that I've learned what I can, and I'd like to repurpose the swarm to give pursuit, but not interfere with the Otterbot. To either just trace it to its point of its destination, or possibly gather some more intel about what's going on.
Okay, well, let's make that a quick plus robotics roll. So it's going to be 2d6 plus 4.
That's 10 on the dice, plus 4 is 14.
Right. Well, you are able to take your swarm, kind of out into a fairly active, kind of public road. Fortunately, this close to the university, it's not as full as it would be 2 weeks from now. And you manage to kind of catch sight of this little thing a couple of times, through the various obstacles and interference, just in time to see it sidle up to what appears to be essentially a crack in the kind of, call it, paving infrastructure of this thoroughfare, and just disappear into the lower levels of the station.
Okay. I'd like to pursue a little bit with my tinier robots that can crawl down into the cracks, but if it gets to the point where there is danger detected or a more complex situation than they are able to handle, then I'd like to retreat.
I think the problem that you're going to run into there is that the only one of your drones you can currently operate without watching it is Mama, your quad drone, which isn't really equipped to go into an environment like this. So as soon as you lose sight of one of the ones that could go in there, you'd be operating it with very, very limited sensor information being fed back to you on a delay. Which doesn't mean you can't try, just kind of setting your expectations.
Well, it's not that I don't trust my drones with their AI to act autonomously, but I don't want them to risk themselves. So I will just kind of note the particular crack that they went into, and ask them all to withdraw to my location to be ready for, the job tonight.
Excellent. So yeah, they, kind of filter back to you, having made a note of the location of this particular little crack. In the meantime, have you communicated beyond, I believe last time you had, kind of let the group chat, as it were, know that you, had kind of eyes on the building. Have you communicated anything else that you've been doing to the others?
I'd like to do so now. So I send out a chat on the secured chat line, saying, kind of updating on everything that I've learned so far.
Okay. So that brings everybody else more or less up to speed. If I remember correctly, when we were stopping last time, we still had like a couple hours till the bidding was supposed to start at 11 p.m. So I think that it is likely that Cato and Byrne are both at least in the vicinity of the frontispiece, but we may check in with Cal on exactly what they're getting up to. So, Cal, you've had a long day's tailing a college student, through his routines. Where are you likely to be when Ing begins to share the information that he has acquired from his investigations?
Probably logging paperwork in the apartment, just so I can get my T's crossed and my I's dotted
And your
before
overtime.
going and doing uncop things.
Good deal. So yeah, Ing, you'll be on your way back to the apartment as well. Upon getting the information and having it shared across the group, again, that is some information about the building, some information about the item being moved into what appears to be the basement. Would you have shared about the little robot that bumped into Banjo?
I'd like to disclose that separately to Cal.
Okay, sure. Then in terms of the group chat, we wouldn't be reacting to that bit, but anything else, that Ing had, kind of observed and shared about what you were looking at, we can have that conversation through the group chat, and then we'll have Ing arrive home around the time we are satisfied that, the initial conversation has passed.
Upon getting the text about Banjo, I close my laptop kind of with a snap and pick up the phone, briefly hover my thumb over the call button, and then instead respond to the text with 3 question marks.
I'm sorry, clarification. So this was in response to Banjo
having another the bumping situation that you texted me about.
I see, on the separate thread. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, well, Banjo's okay. It's just, I've downloaded the code. It seems to be just kind of a noise response, kind of how you doing. But just in case it carries some information, I've logged it for later.
I send back a thumbs up, but breathe a big sigh of relief.
Byrne, Kato, any thoughts on what Ing found at the site, this IMX storage facility?
I think I say to the group, if we have a pretty decent idea of the location, maybe there doesn't need to be an auction.
Doesn't need to be an auction on the order of destroying the place, or doesn't need to be an auction on the order of taking the thing? You're being ambiguous.
Frowny emoticon, the latter.
Good, just checking.
Yeah, I'm going to rule that you've got, from the time that these messages are being sent in the group chat, call it 2.5 hours before, if not bidding starts, then people are likely to be there in any number.
I'm game if you are hitting the place before the auction, but I guess it would be a gamble whether there's going to be more security before the auction or following home whoever wins the auction. Depends on who wins, I suppose.
Following home would probably be cleanest.
Could be tricky, though. And high risk, because if we lose them, then they go to ground and we are left sitting around with our thumbs up our asses.
And if they know what they're buying, they might not leave alone.
Yeah, let alone that the kind of person that buys this high-end item might have more security than the low-tech, bumbling terabytes. My vote's for before, but either after or during, perfectly valid.
I think before.
We operate on consensus here, officer. What do you think?
We can do before.
Before it is. I think we make plans to meet not too far from the location and infiltrate, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
During this time period,
Mhm.
I'm going to text in the group chat. Hey, Bern, I think you can mute my arm again.
Yeah. Approximately how often does it go off?
Adam, how often does it go off?
Well, officially, it is supposed to go off no more than once per hour while on duty and only in the presence of certain numbers of other individuals. You suspect, however, that whatever software was supposed to be handling that is not very good. Because you have had a couple of blessed days where it just didn't go off at all. You have had many, many more days where it has decided to go off when there is no one around, including once, like, while you were getting into the shower, which was alarming and infuriating. Most often, most days, it goes off seemingly at random while you're on duty. Your high for number of times it's gone off in one day is a tooth grinding 15, but an average day probably has half a dozen.
Okay. So good idea to have a security measure there. Got it. I respond with a I don't respond with that much detail, but I do respond with it should only go off when I'm on duty, and put that in quotes.
I take it from the should that doesn't always seem to be the case. About
as faulty as anything else I get through my employer.
Choice of employer. But I suspect I can do something about it. Probably need the assistance of Adam. Remind me of the hardware person's name.
Oh, G. Gorister.
To do it truly properly, probably need G's assistance so that we could, like, set up a detector for electrical impulses, and I lapse into slight techno speak there. And all of that, but can probably set it up so that there's no more than, like, an instant before it gets muted. Yeah, time to detect.
I respond with the thumbs up.
But also, like, if you know where the speaker is, you can wrap it in cloth.
I don't respond to that.
I will have to think about how the AUG is set up. In that regard.
I realized as I was saying it, that's one thing about that particular augment that we have not discussed prior.
I will do my best to figure it out before the next time it comes back up. So,
I thought the on-duty clarification was a nice touch.
So I believe we were thinking of maybe some place to kind of meet in the vicinity of this storage facility. Now, it's not very, very close to the university buildings. There's like kind of a campus, but like most, kind of urban campuses, it is also then sort of a blurry boundary where there are, university and non-university buildings kind of mixed together for a little while out from kind of the central buildings. And so this storage facility is, in one of those areas where, some of the buildings around it are university buildings, some are not, and one or two, the university has like a floor of a building for a given purpose, things like that. A quick glance at sort of the Grand Cross equivalent of Google Maps shows that the sort of nearest kind of public establishment is one that none of you have heard of, but might make for a decent little meeting spot, because it appears to be some sort of bar or restaurant with the arrestingly absurd name Izakaya Po'boy.
Yeah, that'll do.
That choices sure were made.
My only
Choices
regret
were
is that I
made.
can't go there tonight in real life.
So, if that seems like a good place to have a little tete-a-tete, to use the lingo, then it might be the place where you would end up meeting up.
Let's do that. Yeah, whether or not it's a good place for izakaya or a po' boy.
Yes.
Should be a good place to meet.
Yeah, so you suggest and presumably do not get any vetoes, and it's not going to take too long for everybody to sort of meet up there. Let's see. Imagine that Cato and Byrne would go together.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making it a question so that I'm not, puppeteering you too much. So you'll arrive a little before your friends. Shall you go in or wait for them outside the little Japanese style sort of split cloth awning with definitely not Japanese lettering spelling out Izakaya Po'boy on it?
Oh, I hate that font.
On the street side.
I'm gonna say, in consideration of Byrne, we will find a relatively out of the way table, and we've established that we'll be meeting on the inside.
Yeah, you step inside, and it appears to be deserted. It is set up almost exactly like the midpoint between a Japanese style drinking and bar food establishment and a sort of southern dive bar. Some kind of mat and bamboo furnishings, others that are aluminum and or wood, plastic tablecloths. There is a sound system that is piping in some not overly loud but still terribly energetic for a sit-down joint Zydeco. And there doesn't seem to be anybody here. It has sort of those menus above the counter where you would go to order and then presumably sit down. Some of the tables are chair and booth setups. Others are the type where you would kneel on cushions next to the tables. It's not huge, but it has a fair amount of seating. Again, none of which is currently being used.
Just don't go for the kneeling ones. My knees couldn't handle it.
We do not go for the kneeling ones.
You start heading over to a table, and as you go to sit, a man kind of hurries out from the kitchen behind the counter. He is getting on in years a little bit, but still pretty spry. ruddy faced with a graying, semi-kempt beard, and a head of hair that looks like it is usually beneath the kind of bandana tied in the back that he currently has on it. He's wearing a fairly clean apron over a t-shirt and jeans. Spotting you, he says, "Oh, hey, bienvenue. Have a seat anywhere. What do you want? Drinks, food?"
Thanks. I
Drinks
hate
to
it.
start. Kanban bienvenue.
I give you the dirtiest look that any teenage-looking boy has ever given anyone.
I grin at you in dad joke, and we
continue to not think too hard about our relationship.
Most certainly not.
Your host, waiter, proprietor, it has yet to be explained, says, well, if we're all here of drinking age, I could get you some Cajun hot sake.
Why?
Point of order: have we been here before? Do we know what
this
that means?
This is brand new.
Okay.
He has not explained a thing.
My eyebrow quirks, and I say, one. Going to assume Burn demurs, but I've been surprised before.
Dude, my fake ID says I am 23.
Doesn't mean you want Cajun hot sake.
No, that's true. I have taste.
So this isn't about whether you should be drinking. This is about whether you're going to join me in drinking this abysmal concoction.
Could I see a drink menu, please?
He goes, sure. And he points at one part of the over-counter menu. He says, all our beer listed there, soft drinks at the bottom.
Thank you.
Sure thing, I'll be right back. And he starts to turn and go, and then seems to think of something, turns back, and gives you a hasty, somewhat awkward bow, and then goes to get the Cajun hot sake, whatever that is. At around about this time, Ing and Cal arrive on the curbside. You know you're in the right place. It is hard to mistake.
I would like to note that I am not in uniform. But
yeah,
I walk in with barely contained confusion and disdain for the nature of this place.
You walk in time. You see your collaborators already seated, and as you start to approach, this fellow comes back from fetching this drink. It is a bottle of extremely sort of common brand American beer, the Hardwired Island equivalent of Budweiser. I will have to come up, I suppose, with a name for it at some point, which he sets down a pint glass, uses a bottle opener tied to his apron string to open it, and pours it in. And then sets the remaining bottle with the remaining beer in it down next to you. It says, "More guests." He pauses, looks distant for a moment, and then goes, "Shoot, bienvenue. Have a seat."
Do the seats look sturdy?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I do so.
Yeah. As you settle in, he says, "Getting on nice folks some drinks. This fella's tried the house specialty, the Cajun hot sake, but we have some other drinks." He points at the menu. "And if you want anything to eat, you just say the word."
The Cajun hot sake, it isn't.
He says, "Oh, you haven't even tried it yet. It's warm, I promise."
I take a sip. Is he lying?
It is a microwaved beer.
I stand corrected.
I'll just have a water, thank you.
Right away.
Nothing for me, thanks.
He gives you a thumbs up. And as he turns, he catches himself again, gives you an awkward bow. And as he's going back to get a glass of water, he says, "Y'all have a look at the menu. Let me know if you want anything to eat."
I spit microwave beer back into the glass.
Not good, eh?
My expectations were low, and yet this exceeded them.
It's something, anyway.
The
The expectations
Zydeco
were
fades out, and some biwa playing comes on.
I'm not sure what they're going for or whether they're pulling it off, but on the plus side, I don't see anyone else here, so it should serve our purposes.
How plainly should we talk about private business in a public place? I defer to others that are perhaps more concerned with operational security.
By this point, Nick or Adam, can I have latched into the local network?
I suppose that depends on whether you have any qualms about like pulling out your setup and just like getting to work right there at the table or in the seat next to you.
I probably would have done it before folks would have arrived.
Perfectly fine.
And really, it's just me like fidgeting with my hand. At least to all external appearances.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well,
assuming a roll is necessary, that is a 9 plus relevant stat.
All right. I was just about to be looking at the part of the rules that has the numbers that I need. Okay. So, yeah, you are, basic functions in. If my assumption is correct and you are looking at the, degree to which you might find yourself surveilled here. There is one camera pointing sort of out towards the door from the back, and there's an external camera.
All right.
It does not appear that either of them have mic input. They're visual only, and they're not anything fancy.
Okay. For purposes of laughing guy ? I am the 25-year-old that like my ID leads people to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But altogether just some guy.
Mm-hmm.
As far as these cameras are concerned.
Certainly. By this point, the water has arrived, and your host for the evening has said, "So rude of me a minute ago. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm the proprietor around here. You can call me Sim. We just opened up some of our first customers, hoping to see a lot more of you later on. We got," he points at panels of the menu behind the counter. We got our Cajun, we got our Japanese, and we got our fusion. I make it all myself, guaranteed to blow you away. So if you want anything, you let me know.
It's quite a concept you've got here, Sim.
I before I came up here to Grand Cross, I had me just a real magical vacation over to Tokyo, and couldn't get it out of my head. and figured that, I'd take what I did know, learn some new things, and bring something new to the people. He gives you a big, seemingly entirely sincere smile.
I pointedly look away from him in hopes that he gets the drift and leaves.
Mm-hmm. He glances around to the rest of the table and is like, right, well, just holler. Kitchen's warmed up if you need anything. And this time remembers to bow before he turns around and goes back into the kitchen. The music is now something that is not Lynyrd Skynyrd, but could be mistaken for Lynyrd Skynyrd.
How does it keep getting worse?
So
throughout all of this, the Zydeco, the Biwa, the not Lynyrd Skynyrd,
Mm-hmm.
I've been sort of tapping the fingers of my right hand on the table, just so that if on the off chance anyone is watching burn, it's a little less conspicuous, all of the hand tapping.
Occasionally, I will tap out something rude in Morse code. Purely to see if I can get a rise out of you.
I respond. I respond more or less in kind.
Excellent. You're used to this, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys are on a little bit of clock here. What needs to be settled?
Well, the goal, it seems to me, is to get that thing out of there. Get as few of us as possible in, get it out without anyone getting hurt, ideally without anyone noticing, though neither of those is guaranteed.
Yeah, I've gotten some network access and cloaked my network access, at least hopefully, as part of my inquiries in preparation.
How's their OPSEC?
Bad.
Good.
Exactly.
I considered that it might be useful to have a distraction and then have a separate team that goes in and just kind of snatches and grabs the thing, but I can't really imagine a distraction that would be big enough that would draw whatever guards they have for their product away, unless the distraction is so big that it makes them reschedule the auction and move the product elsewhere, in which case we could hit it en route.
Now that's interesting.
There's no way for us to, say, sham the funds needed to get the winning bid on this item?
Hacking financial institutions is way harder. Vaguely within the realm of possibility, but, principle of least effort here.
Is it... Now, I don't know the hacking side of things, but is it easier to make it look like funds have been transferred without actually going through their banking systems at all? For the user under the experience to just kind of have an interface that looks like funds have been transferred.
That would require...
No one has to get paid. They just have to think they're getting paid.
Right.
That.
Well, so the thing about a man-in-the-middle attack like that is that they're going to have their actual bank in addition to the payment. So you'd have to spoof functionally two different banks, and you'd have to know what their actual account balances would be and, the site layout of the bank. So it would be about 2 times more complicated, and also would require actually hacking the bank anyway.
In time we don't have.
Yeah.
Burn, if you
I
could...
guess we gotta make a splash.
If you could give me, let's let's just say a straight clever roll based on what I'm seeing of your specialties here. So that's just 2d6 plus 3.
Yeah, that's a total of 10.
10. And Ing. Let's see. Remind me what your enter the singularity trait does.
That is thematically my philosophical understanding or approach, feeling like technology is the solution to all problems.
Right.
And in terms of what it does, I think that it gives me an additional specialty or something like that related to sciences.
Just checking here. So, Byrne, you had a 10. You have a thought that annoys you a lot, but seems like it might actually be helpful here. You have outlined the problem with spoofing funds from a bank. But it is entirely possible that this is a circumstance in which they would accept cryptocurrency.
Oh, no.
No. I was thinking we were going to rob the university. Darn.
I'm just telling you what occurs to you as you think about the problem.
I take a sip of the water and I grimace like it's microwaved beer. These chuckle fucks are probably stupid enough that they'd accept pay in crypto.
Oh, almost certainly.
That's way less difficult to fuck around with. Because of course it is.
Because it was designed to be much harder to fuck around with by people who don't know how anything works.
And if we have one of us serve as a eccentric tech entrepreneur, it would be very much in character for them.
No. I don't even have to appear in person. Like, the websites are bad. There's no bank interference. There's no bank security.
Somebody would have to bid, though.
Well, would have to bid, but that's whatever. Or rather, that's not my problem.
It would absolutely be found out. There isn't any way to actually fake the cryptocurrency that you could do on the fly, but you could absolutely fake the transfer of some cryptocurrency without nearly as much trouble as bank fraud would involve.
And one of us would need to be an eccentric tech entrepreneur of some kind.
I could pull that off.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
I'll leave it up to you, Adam, whether or not, I'd rather not spend a prep for this, but I'd like to do a quick flash of my holographic projection armor.
Mm-hmm.
Just enough to cause my face to ripple.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a demonstration
yes,
that it exists, you don't have to actually spend any prep, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Ing looked briefly concerned as you'd suggested posing as the buyer, and then seems a little bit relieved as there's that holographic shimmer. Rather, I should say, I feel briefly concerned as you volunteer, and then I look a bit relieved as I see the shimmer. Well, unless there's any other pieces to this that we need to consider, I mean, if you feel pretty confident about your ability to spoof the payment, at least until we're out of there, then it's just a matter of egress and making sure that the appropriate safeguards are in place.
Yep. I think that should be... I won't say trivial because that invites problems, but within the realm of feasibility.
Yeah. not going to be trivial, but at least we're approaching it in a way where we're unlikely to ruffle any feathers. In the moment, at least.
Unless things go tits up, then yeah.
In which case, I'd rather not have any of you kids in the line of fire.
You're not going to believe me, but I'd rather not have you in it either.
I appreciate the sentiment, but won't rely on it. No offense to you.
None taken.
We need to be at least close enough that we can help if something goes wrong.
I suppose that is the intelligent thing to do. This seems a little bit more on the deep end of the pool than what I believe anyone at this table is involved in, exception of myself.
Question for Robin, out of character. You said that you're not in your police clothes. How bulky are the clothes that you are wearing?
Pretty bulky and loose fitting. I do have the option. One of the things I wanted to ask Adam about is whether or not I could have worn my padded clothing layers underneath some bulky exterior layers to kind of conceal them as part of my riding gear.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable preparation for you to have taken, given what you're planning to get up to this evening.
Okay, yeah. So very bulky, very androgynous, loose-fitting, nondescript, and muted grays and blacks and neutrals.
All right. Well, if you are going to be in the thick of it, I wonder if there's sufficient layers going on there that you could perhaps take my drones with you. I'm ambivalent about being a bidder myself at the auction. I could perhaps bid on some minor items, but my guess is that a lot of it's out of my price range.
You also don't have any information suggesting that there's anything else that's going to be up for auction.
Thank you.
That's good to know. Because that was going to be my other question, is how do we know which item to bid on? Kind of important. I imagine I'm wearing some sort of exterior jacket layer that I prop open the interior of and say, yeah, I don't exactly wear anything tight-fitting at my age.
I will take this opportunity to just make sure that I have everything straight in my head. We have shifted from trying to steal the item before the auction to trying to win the item at the auction. Using spoofed cryptocurrency and Cal as the undercover bidder. Good deal. Well, that does give you more time to prepare if you need to, or alternatively, more time to sample the delights of Izakaya Po' Boy. While you wait.
Is there a plant or something to empty this beer into?
There are a number of bamboo planters around. You are not sure if they are real planters full of dirt or if you're going to be pouring beer into foam, but you kind of don't care very much so long as it gets rid of the microwaved beer.
Yeah, I do that.
Mm-hmm. It turns out to be foam.
I watch the entire process.
I watch the beer run across the foam with a mild sense of inevitability and then move on.
The adjective mild there really got me.
Yep.
The plant gets the water it deserves.
I, for some reason, think about the hand in my apartment.
I make a mental note to pick up some moisturizer later. The air on the station can get a bit dry.
vivid image of just
You're
a
welcome.
dollop of shea butter. Yeah.
I was going to say that pouring this microwaved beer into this fake bamboo plant's foam is effectively the opposite of the instructions you sometimes get when you buy an orchid to water it by putting ice cubes on it.
The opposite of an
absolutely
orchid.
not wrong.
Yeah.
You may
instructions
continue.
aggravate me.
Yeah, same. But you may very well have more to discuss here, which is fine. You only, I will tip my hand here, have about 10 more minutes before this establishment has other customers. So, if you have particulars you'd like to go over, then, that's fine. Otherwise, you can shoot the breeze until you decide to decamp elsewhere or until it's time to put the plan into motion, but you will not be alone for all of that time here in Izakaya Po'boy.
I mean, we could stick around and see other people's reactions to the fair.
There's Inca music playing now.
Nice.
I hold my hand up as though I'm playing a pan flute, just in case there's additional finger action going on the other side of the table.
I look sternly in your direction, decide it's not worth bringing up, and instead suggest that we should come up with a plan B.
Well, agreed. Plan B, I suppose, is just take it and run.
Ing, you might speak up at this point because it is going to be a challenge to make speed with the size of object that they brought in.
Yes, remind me how big the object is.
It took 2 people to carry it in.
Mm-hmm.
It is not quite furniture sized, but it is larger than, package you get sent, from online retail sized, and it is irregularly shaped. Otherwise, it was wrapped in some padding and was occluded from sight. That what actually it is in there, but it is seemingly quite heavy. We'll call it medium-large object that 2 people had to carry in, cooperating together.
Mm-hmm. And as long as we're on the topic, does this mean that it's larger than I could accommodate with a pre-posted package that I put together?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you are not going to be able to fit it into really anything other than a specialized packing container.
All right.
The pre-addressed envelopes may well come in handy for something else on a smaller scale. They may not, but they will not serve for the auction item.
Right. Yeah, so about that, it's going to be difficult to effect a smash and grab because the item itself seemed quite heavy, in addition to being a bit awkward to carry. Not impossible, mind you, but I wouldn't want to be caught with the others giving chase as we're trying to get away with it.
Which leaves the matter of, even if we win the bid, where and how should it be delivered?
I mean, that makes me think that maybe others have had the same idea that I had about ambushing en route, so we should be prepared for that.
And that's probably still our plan B. I flex my left arm thoughtfully. We'll downgrade smash and grab to plan D.
Smart.
All right.
Table talk. Is anyone in possession of a vehicle? Certainly not one that could fit
my
this
bike.
thing.
No.
Yeah, I think it is just Cal's bike. Which, like,
I don't
maybe
think my
with,
bike can handle it.
I was gonna say maybe
Also-
with the right hookup for like a anti-grav trailer or something, hoverboard style thing. Anti-gravity as a technology is still a buzzword, but has not actually been realized. However, there are forced air and magnetic repulsor devices that, can be
That
used
exist.
for things like this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also very PSS labeled right now.
Oh, yes. Your bike is unambiguously cop.
Yeah. We could probably mod it in a short time to make it look like a refurbished cop bike, but it would still scream cop.
Yeah, like when people are riding around in Crown Victorias.
Yep, exactly.
Do I know anybody around here who might be in possession of something quote-unquote anti-grav that we could load this thing onto in exchange for a favor?
Really good question.
Does my hoverboard count?
It would not really carry enough weight, but it could maybe be used along with something else, in a pinch. Would you give me a criminal underground roll, please, Kato?
Sure thing.
Or criminal underworld, is that what I said? +2. It's going to be a clever roll in this case, because you are going through your mental Rolodex, so that's going to be a total of +4.
Gotcha. So that's 7 plus 4 is 11.
11.
Excuse me, that's 8 plus 4 is 12.
Okay. Actually, now that you're sort of trying to go through, you may know a guy. His name is in fact Guy. He started a few years back, coming around at the end of any given school year and asking for specific used books. And you didn't ask a whole lot of questions, but they were usually a pretty tidy stack, and he would haul off a couple 100 pounds of textbooks in what was essentially a sort of magnetic repulsor pallet jack. You would, still have to haul it on foot, but a single person could do it if Guy would let you borrow it, which you're not in regular contact with him, but you do have, a username and could shoot a message to him.
Yeah, I convey this to the group and I shoot Guy a message.
Mm-hmm.
That would solve one problem at least.
Right. Might as well plan for success, assuming that we do get our hands on this thing by the end of the evening.
It is at about this time that a group of 4, you'd put money on them being grad students, come in to Izakaya Po'boy, take up spots around one of the floor tables, and Sim comes, enthusiastically out. Bienvenue! Welcome to Izakaya. Oh, hey! Good to see you again! And starts chatting a little more quietly with this group as they place their orders. You notice that none of them get the Cajun hot sake. But you do overhear that Sim is very excited because the next time they come in, he should be able to serve matcha. And he's very excited about that.
What is he going to pair the matcha with, though?
The listener cannot see Robin's face, but
you have no information on what he might be serving matcha with or using it for.
Cal doesn't know what matcha is, but I do, I was gonna say, and I'm horrified.
That.
Well, matchas, I'd like to stick around and find out. We have bigger, whatever it is they fry here to fry.
As it happens, Sim was passing behind you. He said that he says, "Oh, we fry just about everything. We got a platter." And he points at the menu.
I didn't mean for that to be out louder in character, but that was perfect, so it was now.
I was assuming it was in character, sorry.
You're fine. I look at the menu, I feign enthusiasm. And then I say to the group, should we maybe get moving?
Yes.
Right.
Sim leaves a tip on food he didn't eat.
Yeah, Sim seems crestfallen that you're leaving without ordering more. But puts on a brave face and is very, sort of enthusiastic and friendly as you pay and leave, and Ing leaves a tip on the table for food that he did not eat, and some sort of as you're leaving hands you some tri-folded copied paper menus. Says, by the start of the school year, we're supposed to be delivering too. So, you ever want some karage or some gumbo, you just call us right up, and we should have, a student worker with a moped who can get it right to your door.
I wave off the trifold. I'm just visiting my son. I'm not local.
Oh, well, next time you visit, we'll hope you'll be back. He puts the menu you waved off in the front pocket of his apron.
And now you will never be able to come in here in person as yourself.
No plans.
That was, to be clear, out of character.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I feel curious, and so as I'm walking out, absentmindedly, I open the trifold and take a look at the menu just to kind of see what other monstrosities they're offering. And I'd like to, what's the top one that catches my eye?
If you're looking for monstrosities, I'm sure you're looking at the fusion section, because there's a Cajun section, a Japanese bar food section, and then a fusion section. And in fact, the fried platter is under the fusion section. It has fried oysters and fried shrimp, as well as karage, Japanese fried chicken, and calamari. There is no other anything listed. It appears to be just a pile of fried proteins.
That's not too terrible.
You could do worse.
That depends really on how fried it is and whether it's actually the animal stated.
I have had something
Tony
similar
Chachere's
before.
on tempura sounds really good.
So anyway, that is the first thing that you see when you look at that section of the menu.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they get you, with renewed hope about this whole endeavor.
Look, as you're leaving, the people who came in after you are getting their appetizers, and it doesn't look terrible. There's some crab claws with some dipping sauce, and something that could be any number of fried dumpling configurations. It smells pretty good.
I have a moment of weakness and wish we could stay for just a moment, but I do not share this with the group.
And you're outside.
Cool.
By this point, you got maybe 90 minutes till showtime, so plenty of time to make preparations if preparations indeed need to be made, but not a lot of time to dawdle.
Do you have a go-to persona for this kind of thing?
I tap the side of my holographic projection armor, and what appears to be a kitsune mask covers my face. I figure it's the perfect representation of like a young kid in college that thinks they're cool.
A young kid in college.
They won't bat an eye when this person pays in crypto. It's perfect.
During dinner, such as it weren't, I was setting up interfaces and so on for impending crypto shenanigans. To the degree that there's anything related to crypto that isn't composed entirely of shenanigans or a scam. In this case, it's both.
Yeah,
but like more literally
all the way down.
This is the use case. This is what crypto is for. Right. This is it right here.
Yes, crime.
You have gotten the setup started for spoofing a large amount of what's a stupid enough name for a blockchain that hasn't already been used in the real world.
Infinthium?
Yeah.
That is insufficiently stupid, actually, is the problem.
I'm insulted.
It's
is-
the
that is-
knockoff version of that. It's thin Theum.
Thin.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I just think that sounds like a plausibly reputable real world cryptocurrency.
Yes, but the problem is that Dogecoin still exists.
That's my
Yes.
point. That's my point. We need
We
something
have the onion
even
problem.
stupider.
Right.
Yeah.
We do.
When reality is this dumb.
Yeah.
Cash, CA dash SHHHHH, as in cash.
Cash with the $sign as the
Oh,
yes.
And they sample from The Fifth Element, Give Me the Cash, as all of their advertising.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm actually going to rule that it's going to be called KA $HH exclamation point. They are stymied as to why their incredible brand recognition has not caught on more.
And also why they can't get a trademark.
Oh, they haven't even thought to.
Fair.
I've never had the urge to destroy currency before.
So you are well along your way to setting up, being able to transfer a large amount of spoofed cash. But
I feel like you have to pronounce the exclamation point. It's like cash.
Well, some people who aren't in the know think of it as cachet.
Mm.
We'll pay in cash. Yeah.
That's absolutely how I'm going to pronounce it later on, just so you know.
Yeah, good to know. So, what, if anything, are we trying to do other than lay low until it's around time for Cal's alter ego to arrive to this auction?
I'm gonna text Ramirez just simply persona period going to win it period. Ramirez will be able to parse this.
Ramirez replies back with a thumbs up and a shush and a salute emoji.
And I'm going to respond with any kids on campus dabbling in NFTs that I can pretend to be.
Ramirez, after a couple moments, responds with, think there are some professors, but don't know who.
Even better.
We'll check.
A professor would definitely show up. I could see.
Yeah, 100%. The bad ponytail sticking out the back.
Yeah.
Just,
if I had enough hair, I would do that.
I heard from Guy as yet. I know it hasn't been long.
Yeah, that was going to be the next thing. It does take a minute, if you guys are camping together or separately or where to, but after an interval, at least, you do hear back from Guy, and Guy is relatively like friendly but not super talkative when you've dealt with him in person. However, the message that he sends back is extremely terse. It is just a credit amount and a oblique reference to the loading area in the back of the frontispiece. Nothing else.
Is the credit amount attainable? Reasonable as these things go?
I mean, nobody has any cash. Ing spent his, and nobody else has any on hand. So, it would be like 2 cash, but you don't have any right now.
Okay.
Presumably you could, leverage one of the frontispiece's accounts, which, not to put too fine a point on it, but like would be embezzling.
Well, I can't do
Yes.
that. No, I'll do that.
I was going to say that may actually encourage you, but
Yeah, no, that's if it weren't embezzling, I would hesitate. But since it is, that I convey this to the group and I say, well, we've got a mag lift, assuming success. And assuming Guy is reliable, but I have a feeling.
All right. Well, I suppose there's nothing for it. Let's head over, unless there's anything else to plan for. Not sure if the rest of us will be outside milling about or go inside.
So I assume I'm going to go to the frontispiece and get this thing and then come back with it.
seems like
So I think
you'd have to, yeah.
I depart to do that. Yeah.
So you head over to the frontispiece. Unless I hear differently, I guess I'm going to assume that everybody else is heading at least to the vicinity of the IMX storage facility. I guess it remains to be seen if anybody else is going in along with Cal. Up to you guys.
Let's see. I don't know how many people will be showing up to this auction. If I think I can get lost in the crowd. I'd like to go in, try to go in with Cal. If I'm stopped at the door or people are asking for confirmation of funds on hand or anything like that, it is what it is, but I'd like to at least be in the building if I can.
I protest this. In character.
You purchase this?
Protest.
Protest this. Oh, in character.
Yes.
Well, what if things go south in there, Cal? I mean, I'm not looking to throw down with anybody, but the idea of you in there alone, it just doesn't sit right.
Kid, I've been alone longer than you've been alive. I'll be okay.
Is that a promise?
I don't make promises.
All right. Well, at least let me wish you luck and extend my hand for a handshake.
I stare at it for a very long time, and then I finally take it. But it's a very curt, short handshake with very, very light pressure, if any.
The moment that contact is made, 10 swarm drones swarm out from under my coat and into yours. Through the sleeve. And you are quickly joined by Peggy, Trent, Diego, Mama, Daddy, Buddy, Toots, Bruv, Wiggles, and Banjo.
I discreetly glance into my coat, and upon seeing the little scorpion drone there, the corner of my lip twitches upwards, and I pretend like nothing out of the ordinary has occurred.
Is this something that the rest of us see too?
I think Kato had wandered off.
Yeah, I guess it depends on
I'm
if
at
you're
least
still
a block
around.
away.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then I also probably am.
Yeah. I would be remiss in my duties if I did not point out that anybody who does observe this, and it's not a lot of passersby, anybody, so it may just be the two of you. These drones are small but not all of them are ambulatory. So this is an extremely awkward process.
It
Some
sure
of them
is,
get
and-
carried by others into the
Yeah,
jacket.
yeah, so that might be an appropriate time to note that they aren't uniform to one another, obviously. Many of them are in forms of kind of mechanical insectoid type creatures. And some of them, like you said, are not ambulatory and they carry one another. Some of them fly and other of them are better at manipulating little things. So anyway, they all fit together in their own way.
Yeah. And they all eventually fit together under Cal's coat. So, I think we're at the cusp of launching the mission here, like officially. Byrne, Cato, you arrive back at the frontispiece, and there is a little magneta-repulsor pallet jack there with a little envelope taped to it that has basically the Grand Cross equivalent of like a Venmo on it, written on it, slip of the paper on the inside. The little pallet jack is currently powered down. It is perhaps reasonable to assume that when transfer of funds is complete, there will be a remote powering on of the pallet jack. Cal, Ing, you are still in the vicinity of the IMX storage facility, and you haven't seen anybody who definitely looks like they're heading to an illegal auction yet, but then again, it's not clear that you would see anybody who definitely would look that way because they would probably be trying not to look that way.
All right. I'll just mill about in the general vicinity until it's time to start. Probably separate from Cal, but within eye shot, and certainly kind of listening in remotely.
All right.
For my part, I transfer the funds.
And I
sure
exist
enough,
in the internet.
Is this the point where I should spend a prep to activate my holographic?
I think you should.
Okay, doing that now.
Yeah, so Cal spends a personal prep.
I am down to 2 now on personal.
Okay, I will note that on your sheet. All right. So we've mentioned the Kitsune mask. Is there anything in particular to add there?
I suppose that it naturally kind of glitches around other areas to imply that there is techwear being worn, even if it isn't strictly techwear. Just trying to look like your typical. I guess I wouldn't say typical, knowing that the professors are the ones now dabbling in NFTs. I'm looking at as much as possible as someone who's trying to look cool but failing. Like new money style.
Yeah. You select from your options and feel like you do a pretty good job. Obviously, the mask is the most arresting detail. And as the sort of bidding time draws near, you move in the direction of the basement doors that Ing had pointed you to, and sure enough, you see a very short queue kind of leading up to it. There are 2 of what you assume to be Terabyte boys standing on either side of the entrance, and they are not doing particularly robust checks, but they are making sure that no one who's coming in is armed.
Oh. Will the drone set that off?
They will almost certainly discover that they are there if they give you a pat down, which is what they're doing as people come in.
I'm going to try to play it cool.
All right. So
if I can be seeing this, Adam, Can I cause some
just from
video feeds and whatnot?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just from general video feeds. Well, let's roll your hacking for good access here.
So that is a 9, becomes, I assume, a 12. Or no, more than that. 14, I think? 15, wait.
15. It would be 15.
Yeah, 15.
So you are able to get into the sort of, more public outdoor networks here. There isn't any surveillance of this particular alley.
Okay.
Which seems pretty deliberate.
Yep.
So the two people before you get, patted down, and the first of them has essentially just an over-engineered taser on them, which gets taken and held. Basically, he tries to object, and the Terabyte boys are like, "Hey, you can take it and go, or you can leave it and come in, and it'll be waiting for you here when you come back out." And grudgingly, the fellow goes downstairs. The person in front of you doesn't have any thing that they find, and then it's your turn. They sort of stop you and like, all right, you quick pat down here, and it's not quite the noise that would be made if you were had bags of loose change, hanging inside of your coat, but obviously they're like, could you open it up and show us what you got?
Yeah, sure.
They
just a bunch of toys.
silently take in the the profusion of drones there for a moment. We're gonna have you make a roll here. Give me just 1 second. Having to scroll here. Let's roll a charm, which is 2d6 plus cool.
Okay. Ooh, 4, 1, so that's 5, plus cool is plus 2, so that would be 7.
Okay. They seem a little skeptical, but one kind of gestures to the other in an elaborate pantomime. The one that got gestured to sort of shrugs one shoulder and leans in a little closer to kind of inspect the drones. Turns to the other one and goes,
"Do you like the googly eyes?"
Yeah, they're a great touch. I don't see anything, no hacking interface, no stun prods. So, yeah. And
yeah,
the other one
they're
shrugs
one of
back.
my new endeavors.
Yeah, go on in. And they wave you through.
Awesome.
Heading down the stairs, the area that you head into is not cavernous, but it also is pretty empty. So it feels, like large empty space. There is a sort of raised stage-like platform on the other side from where you enter at the bottom of the stairs that has I guess you could best describe it as a dais on there with a cloth-covered form of something or other that is, I don't know, maybe the size of a Power Wheels, if not the shape of one. And milling about is a surprisingly robust group of presumably potential bidders, as well as a number of who you take to be the Terabyte boys executing the auction. It is somewhat undercut in terms of sense of occasion by the fact that this is a bare concrete room with fluorescent lights in the ceiling and pretty much nothing else. There is, unfortunately,
no ball pit.
Incredulously, no ball pit.
Darn.
But there are a dozen, presumable bidders down here. Most are in at least an effort at disguise, clinical face masks on glasses, at least one person in like what appears to be sort of like a LED screen that only displays like Squid Game colors in various configurations. Some people just with like hoods or straight up balaclavas, just trying to maintain some form of anonymity. The only bidder who doesn't seem to be making any particular attempts at disguise is an android in fairly kind of casual, if somewhat professional clothing, with a pretty classy, expensive looking chassis. And you can tell that it's classy and expensive looking because they have made no effort to disguise it or conceal it in any way. Almost everyone else has some element, of obfuscation going on. The bidders are spaced out irregularly in the middle of the room, staying away from both the walls and from one another. While the Terabyte boys tend to hang around the outside of the room. There are a few minutes left until it was supposed to be, bidding time.
Can I'm not sure which type of role this would be, but I want to put myself strategic where I have a good vantage point of the room, all the Terabyte boys, but also look completely disinterested in the goings on, like I already know the outcome.
Okay. You sort of position yourself a little to one side and a little medium forward, and kind of face the interior of the room where you can see the staircase on one side of your peripheral vision and the stage on the other side of your peripheral vision, and you scope.
Any Well, first, I will ask. I'm going to try to make a mental note without looking of all in attendance as much as possible.
Okay.
Just trying to get a sense of who they are behind the disguise based on body posture, size, tone of voice, the way they carry themselves, that sort of information. Try to glean as much as possible from these people.
Let's have you roll an investigation. That's going to be a total of +5.
Okay, so I got a 6 and a 1 for 7 plus 5. That'll be 12.
Okay. You sort of marshal your, years of experience, your intuition, your skills, and put together sort of little stub descriptions that you kind of review in your head as the room fills up a little more and the time of the auction draws near.
Apologies.
Go ahead.
I'd like to text Cal and remind her that Mama has video surveillance if needed. Otherwise, Mama will stay put. But under the jacket, Mama can't see much of anything.
I'm going to slip... Mama's the one with cat ears, so I'm going to slip my hand underneath the jacket and pull Mama out and pet her. Very much as though I'm trying to emulate every evil mastermind in cinematic history petting a cat.
Sure.
In my Kitsune mask.
The drone copter does its best approximation of a purr using its rotors.
Yeah. Just slightly irregular RPMs get the job done.
Whirring up and down regularly.
Yeah.
While the phone is out, I'd like to check, I think you called it Bacon, but I'd like to check my app.
Yeah, the Bounty Accountability Network. Bacon. You pull it up. Not much has changed since yesterday. is there specific information that you are checking it for, or are you just maybe comparing it to the people in the room with you?
I'm comparing it to the people in the room with me.
All right. I'm going to make a roll. Woohoo. As you sort of surreptitiously look at the bacon list on Hunter, you are drawn to a particular entry here. One of the members of the Terabyte Boys is very similar to and looks an awful lot like a very poorly disguised recently discharged, which is the phrasing that your boss uses for fired, PSS member. You didn't work closely with the guy. You primarily knew him as PJ, but this lists him as Peter. And he seems to be working security for this thing.
I'm going to keep myself on the opposite side of the room from PJ.
Yeah, PJ looks kind of bored, and just sort of checking what Bacon has to say about it. They have put this very small bounty out on Peter because while he was let go from PSS for essentially taking bribes in a way that could not be sort of disguised or hand waved when it came to light.
So he was bad at it.
Right. He gets he got fired a couple weeks back, but apparently didn't clear out of the neighborhood, and never did actually like enter the legal system for it. So Bacon's contention is that if you can help them locate him decisively, then they can essentially serve him with papers, to open civil proceedings. The net of the take for actually nabbing him is going to be fairly paltry, even by Hunter standards, but that's always the case with these.
Not worth paying attention to beyond the potential.
Could be a distraction.
Recognition. Could be a distraction, yes. Oh, yeah.
Right. So at around this time, the auction is going to begin. So, Ing, you will have sort of a limited perspective, but some audio visual information about what's going on. Cal, you're obviously in there. It is fairly unceremonious. They just do that thing where they click the lights a couple times to get people's attention, and then a relatively nondescript fellow, actually the one who you thought was a bidder before, in the LED mask with the Squid Game colors, steps up onto the stage and uses one of those little sort of hardware store megaphones to address everybody in the room. You actually do hear the doors close at the top of the stairs before he starts. Says, "We're real pleased with the turnout. Looks great. Thank you all for being here. We fortunate enough to get our hands on some," and he sort of looks around surreptitiously as though trying to detect eavesdroppers, and says, "Cartel tech. They didn't seem to really want it anymore, but we haven't seen anything like it, and neither have you. So we've spent a little bit of time making sure it's in working order here, and we can start taking bids now. We're going to ask you to raise your hand. We'll recognize everybody somebody outbids you, just go ahead and put your hand down. If you want to make a new bid, put your hand up. Not going to call out names or anything. We're just going to point. We are all friends here. So everybody keep it cool. Now, here's what you're bidding on. He leans over and whips the cloth off. It doesn't work exactly as showman-like as he seems to have hoped it might, because the cloth is large, heavy, kind of decrepit, and the thing underneath it is, well, irregularly shaped enough to make it a not extremely smooth process. What you see is a polyhedron of some sort, made of triangular metal plates that are connected together in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Some of these plates are levered away from others, and the arms, tentacles, appendages of the device emerge from between some of those plates. You count 3, but given that they're coming from under the plates, there could be more. They end in what appear to be a variety of interaction tools and sensory arrays. This is some manner of robot or drone. Doesn't seem to be merely a tool. There is a lull for a couple moments while people take in what they're seeing. And then a person a little bit toward the front in a green hoodie raises their hand and offers a credit amount that is round about half of your annual salary. From there, people start putting in bids here and there. No countdowns necessary, but it's not exactly frenzied either, as people sort of try to figure out what they're looking at. Around the time that the amount gets up to 1.5 times your annual salary, the android you had noticed earlier raises their hand and says in a very sort of suave-sounding synthesized voice, an amount that is roughly 3 times your annual salary, jumping the amount up quite a lot.
I raise my hand immediately following that. Don't bother sounding suave or fancy, just cocksure of myself. And double their bid.
Yeah, we will, make it part of your earlier conversations that you went over with Burn the credits to cash exchange rate. And so you ballpark it to the amount that you wanted to, and the android does not look back at you, but gets noticeably stiffer in posture. And there are no immediate
I don't look
bids.
at them the entire time either.
There are no immediate bids from there, from anyone else besides this android. After about a slow count of 2, raises their hand and outbids you, but not by a whole lot.
I outbid them by an almost insultingly low amount.
They counter the same way, outbid you by an almost insultingly low amount, and then right on the heels of that, somebody who hasn't bid yet, wearing just really unremarkable kind of business casual and a sort of disguise that consists of a baseball cap and a surgical mask, raises their hand and says in a relatively low register voice, an amount that's 50% again above what you had bid this last time.
I wait long enough to see if the android is going to make a move. If they do not,
the android does not.
Then I bid 25% above them.
All right. They immediately come back with another 25% over your bid and are now noticeably glaring at you.
I ignore them and go 30% above their amount.
The Terabyte boys around the edges of the room are grinning at each other and at the proceedings. The person that you're bidding against at this point raises their hand to call out a bid. They increase your last bid by about 10% and also say, "And I can have it in cash tonight, not in casino chips."
I go 50% above their amount again.
They do not counterbid, and the Terabyte boys up on the stage start to sort of confer with each other. There seems to be a little disagreement over which is the safer investment, and I'm actually going to roll for them. After a little bit more conferring, the one in the LED mask straightens up and says into the little megaphone that, well, the bid stands so long as the transaction clears. Go ahead and send it to, and then lists off a wallet address for this crypto exchange. Now, Byrne?
Yes.
This is where we're going to have you do a hacking roll.
Yep. I will spend one of my prep to give myself advantage.
Excellent.
So I'd be rolling 3 dice, yeah?
Yeah, and then taking the highest of the two.
So that is a 3, a 5, and a 6. So we'll go with 11 becomes 17.
All right. You also will not actually lose a prep for that because you are a script kitty.
I
You spend
sure
-1 prep the
am.
first time you use a program and a hack. We call that applicable here. So you fly into action.
And I will also want to be ghosting this.
Mm-hmm. Do go ahead and roll your ghosting. Same.
I will spend
bonus.
a prep for that as well, but this
Excellent.
one actually
go
counts.
Mm-hmm.
A 2, a 4, and a 6, so 16 there.
All right. When the transfer request arrives, you have some script set up to start handling it. You react to the feedback you're getting on the fly. And if you do say so yourself, you have done a pretty good job here. Everything seems to go without a hitch, and the receiving wallet receives what looks an awful lot like a truly absurd amount of cash coins. Back in the basement auction room here, the leader of the Terabyte boys in this auction, at least, confers with one of the other Terabyte boys to confirm receipt of the crypto amount specified, and announces you as the winner. The Kitsune wins the auction. Doors up there, and then a sort of assisting Terabyte boy, says something inaudible and says, wait, my bad. We were going to demonstrate, and presses a button on the dais, and the device starts to power up. It would appear that the crypto was not sufficient on its own. They also want publicity. And so the object doesn't take a whole long time to boot up. It more or less immediately begins to lever itself upward on more and more of those appendages as they emerge from underneath the body of it. And the android who was bidding against you leans forward kind of avidly to watch. The cap and mask bidder that you were bidding against toward the end sort of leans back a little bit, seemingly, not feeling great about this. The Terabyte boys are applauding and clapping each other on the back, and the other bidders are moving towards the exit, seemingly not paying a whole lot of attention to the robot that they did not buy. There does, however, become audible a crudely synthesized voice emanating from the now active machine. From where you're standing, the first thing that you can hear is 9, 2, 6, 5, 3, 5, 8, 9, 7, 9, 3, 2. And in a matter of maybe 5 or 10 seconds since it has been activated, it swivels one side of its body to face the nearest Terabyte boy to it on the dais and powers up a mobility thruster to perhaps 10 times its intended capacity in an attempt, apparently, to propel the Terabyte boy away from it at bone-shattering speeds. Which indeed is what happens. This Terabyte boy is caught completely off guard and slams into the wall. Not hard enough to do comic book stuff like cracking the wall or like spattering a bunch of blood on it or whatever, but if this Terabyte boy is able to breathe comfortably for the next within the next hour, you would be shocked.
But to be clear,
now,
this is not an ex-Terabyte boy?
Doesn't seem to be. I'd be pretty unlucky to have been immediately killed off by this. It is not amazingly healthy what has happened here, though. So, at this point, Ing, you have seen, a slightly inconveniently cropped version of this. Cal, your totally legitimate purchase is seemingly not happy about where it has ended up. You are, as far as you know, locked in a basement with some shady characters and a robot of unknown origin that is doing violence to its handlers. There is about a half a beat of relative stunned silence, followed by shouting and running towards the door. And I kind of hate to do this, but timing-wise, I think we have to. That's going to be where we end our session.
Fun.
Yeah, we will deal with the, I'll be classy and call it exfiltration at the beginning of our next session. So, that concludes this session of Dice Punks. Thanks for joining us. I hope our players and listeners enjoyed it as much as I did, and that you'll join us again next time. If you're hearing us now, then you probably know where to listen to this, but we can be found almost any place one can listen to podcasts, as well as on the wider web at dicepunks.com and on co-host and Tumblr as at dicepunks. With that, I think we're ready to say farewell, so say goodbye to the kind folks back on Earth, players.
Thanks for listening, and hey, how'd the auction go?
Thanks for listening, everyone. Remember that just because something looks good on the shelf doesn't mean you need to actually purchase it.
Thanks for listening, folks, and just because something doesn't look good on the shelf doesn't mean your purchase needs to be legitimate.
Thank you for listening, folks. Food dreams turned nightmares. Bamboo groves and Cajun beer. The foam thirsts for more.
Well, the poet did just once say that, but as the poet also once said, 1, I can count to 1. 2, I can count to 2. 3, I can count to 3. 4, I can't count no more.
Count no more.
Beloved listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stick around through the admin stuff for a Cato log. The main theme for this campaign, Augment or Die, is by Emerson Boatwright and our very own mechanical person, Drew. You can find links to more of their music in the show notes. Editing on our rad new cover art was done by Joanne, who has appeared on podcasts now and again. Check out her work around the internet where she goes by anything so's. Site design and graphics for dicepunks.com are by the one and only Officer Armitage, Robin. Hardwired Island is by Paul Machevic, Freya Erlingsdotter, and Minerva McJonda. You can find Hardwired Island at etten.itch.io/hardwiredisland. Links to system and authors can be found on the Punk Grimoire section of our website, dicepunks.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, that's reward enough on its own, but if you're so inclined, you can help us out by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen to us, telling your friends who you think would like us to give us a listen, and even by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/dicepunks. We have fun rewards available to backers, including a patron-only Discord and access to the Dice Peaks After Show for episode 1.1 and following. Regardless, we hope you'll tune in again, and until then, remember, subtlety is for cowards.
There's time to do inventory while Gorrister works on the kid and before the closing time rush, so fine. What do we have here? All the latest lukewarm boilerplate published by Myopic, McMaximilian, John Wiley, and Coyotes. Guess they're still making freshmen read Knots and Crossings, a tedious collection of florid poems on the founding of Grand Cross by Shelley Houghton. Oh, and there's Isidore Smith's definitive history of market economies. She's a fan. And yet more proofs on the impossibility of quantum computing by X357 Autobot Esquire, with a typically snippy new foreword by John Hurleyborough Lee. The Ship of Theseus, an at least nominally singularist philosophy text by Vex Wozniak, pablum about how CEOs are the true visionaries and vanguards of robotics, some insufferable hagiographic stuff on Trilobite Liao and Kanemasa Gao in particular. Something shaped more or less like an argument in there somewhere, I assume. The stuff they make these kids read. The stuff I sell them.